Unatazama Sound Candy Talk Live. At Sound Candy Talk, we provide live UHD broadcasts for church services, talk shows and podcasts, weddings, live bands, products and services launches, webinars and trainings, Zoom meetings, conferences, seminars, exhibitions, and virtual concerts. Mimi ni Will Kibadi na kutakia Happy New Year.
It has been a turbulent 2.5 years for President William Ruto's government, struggling to impose its development agenda and containing an ever-escalating revolt against the state. An alarming wave of human rights violations, a struggling economy, and unpopular public programs continue to derail the government as the international community turns the lens on President Ruto. At the center of government operations is Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who is now urging Kenyans to allow Kenya Kwanza time to deliver the pledges it made. He sat down with our senior reporter and presenter Ibrahim Karanja on a wide range of issues. Take a listen.
A very few days, but with so many things happening that touch on your docket. Let's start with the most recent, which was on the paper, the Saturday Nation and various other publications in the country, about President William Ruto's meeting with the ex-Congressman Mark Daly of Michigan. This is a meeting that has caused heat amongst Kenyans and actually questions coming about whether we vet the people meeting the president owing to the background of the individuals who are in this particular meeting. Maybe to start us off, what were the details of this meeting between President Ruto and the delegation that he met on Friday?
Well, first of all, I was not at that particular meeting. But I would like people to appreciate that it's not unusual for the president to meet different delegations and different people from across the board. And therefore, when the president did indeed meet the congressman from the United States, he did so because they're congressmen. And we have to understand that interaction and the issues that congressmen can also canvass on behalf of a country are very, very important issues that we should reflect on. But looking at the profile, it's also possible that the conversation may have been to do with South Sudan. It's very possible, amongst other things. There are a lot of hotspots in the Horn of Africa today. You know it. There's Sudan itself. There's the South Sudan. There are challenges that we still continue to see in Somalia. We have DRC, Eastern DRC with its challenges, and we have also seen some difficult moments between Ethiopia and Somalia. So there are several hotspots, and really having a conversation with congressmen should not really raise an alarm.
Excellency, what you are carefully evading? Yes, we acknowledge the many players that are key to this particular peace process, but we're speaking about the profiles of the people who the president met yesterday. We are speaking about an individual who pleaded guilty and actually served term for obstruction of justice and acting as an unregistered foreign agent. We're speaking about another person in Kenya who is currently undergoing investigations by the EACC for illegal payouts in Nairobi, or alleged illegal payouts. And that's what has really actually created the heat that we are seeing from that meeting by the president. An ex-congressman, yes, congressmen were in the meeting, but these two individuals in particular.
I think you may be reading too much into that. Okay? And the president, you cannot censor who the president wants to talk to and who he should talk to. I think you're overstepping.
We are questioning.
No, you are overstepping. He has a right, as a president of the republic, to talk to anybody. All right? And if somebody has been elected as a congressman, his people have got, if he's faced his bit, if he's gone through a trial and he's been covered, and the president is meeting him, you cannot now censor a president for that. All right? So I think let us also be respectful here, that the president of any country has a right to talk. Is there anything that he has done that is inimical to Kenya by just talking to them?
Excellency, this comes from, it has a background. The heat has a background. Previously, we have seen Kenya's engagement with individuals that have turned out to be controversial. Speak about Hemedti, for example, who was just recently sanctioned by the United States. He was an ally or a friend to Kenya. We saw his team holding press conferences in the Republic of Kenya up until the sanctions by the United States. So perhaps it is out of caution that this kind of questioning is coming on who the president is meeting and whether indeed we vet the kind of people that the president is meeting.
No, I think you are missing the point. If I go straight to the issue of Sudan, first of all, please understand where you're coming from. One, today, the same people working in the same government, Hemedti and Burhan, under the government of Bashir. Then things changed. Then they worked together for a while, and then there was conflict. All right? Was there anything wrong if IGAD, and Kenya is part of IGAD, when there was a meeting in Uganda, the presidents of the region were there. President Museveni, President Ruto, we had, I think, the president of Somalia there. They called a meeting in Entebbe, and I was present, to try and bring the warring factions together. Please, do not mistake diplomatic initiatives to help the people of Sudan find peace as an issue of Sudan or Kenya having taken sides. We have not taken sides. And for your information, I was with the minister of Sudan at the Great Lakes in Luanda not too long ago. And we had a very cordial conversation. And I have extended an invitation for him to come here so that we can talk to these issues of bringing, helping them to find stability and peace in Sudan. Dialogue is not a problem. Okay? So Kenya has not committed any offense.
The question would be, because last year when President William Ruto sat with Hemedti here in Nairobi, and he even said in a press conference that it almost collapsed the IGAD processes because the other side was almost pulling out. The question would be, now that we are seeing sanctions, will the president still have, or will the country, Kenya, still have the position it had previously? President William Ruto said,
are the sanctions because the president talked to Hemeti?
It is all President Ruto.
No. What is it about?
The sanctions are about Hemeti having committed atrocities in Sudan.
Now, do you think President Ruto is not aware of that? It has happened. Okay? And the sanctions have been imposed by the United States.
Nini mbaya, wachana mimi bwana. Kwani uogopi kupoteza pesa?
All right? And we are fully aware of that. But that does not stop us from engaging with the people of Sudan to see if we can be of help so that peace can come there.
So Kenya's position, even after the sanctions, is that engagement with the two parties still?
You keep on asking me, is not about Kenya, but you're bringing it back to Kenya. And I'm telling you Kenya's position. All right? And I've just told you I've invited the minister of Sudan. So how much more do you want me to help you?
All right, Excellency, let's go back to our initial conversation, and that was about the visit. How has that affected Kenya's position? Because it was in the headlines. How is the government even reacting to the kind of
which government?
The Kenyan government reacting to the kind of perception that came out from the meeting between President Ruto and the envoys from the US and Sudan?
Kenya is perfectly in order to talk to these people. I've told you I've invited the Minister for Sudan to be able to. In fact, his first invitation was for me to go to Port Sudan. But we want that to be a reciprocal position, okay? So that we can all talk and help them find peace. That is the ultimate thing, okay? And the peace initiative in Sudan will involve dialogue with the warring factions, but it should, we also look forward to it involving also the civilians in Sudan. So it's going to be a long, protracted process. And there are other countries that are also engaged in trying to make sure that peace can come. But all the suffering, it's the worst humanitarian crisis that we're facing today. There must be multiple initiatives from different quarters. And that is where Kenya stands.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
How have our efforts been affected since the time of last year's protests, June 25th? I'm asking this in light of the developments in the diplomatic world or the diplomatic spaces. Before June 25th, we had so many engagements between the Kenyan head of state or the Republic of Kenya and foreign governments. We had visits by President William Ruto to foreign countries, as well as very critical and important visits by foreign head of states to the country. That has significantly reduced since the protests.
My friend, what week is it in 2025?
Second week, the third week.
Okay, starting next week, you'll see some visitors. Okay.
So how did the protests affect us?
Towards the end of next week, you'll see visitors. Okay. Kenya is a democratic country. And people, and our constitution, which we respect, allows people to protest, to picket, and to express their concerns. And we shall not take that away from them. All right? But I want to assure you, because of that very fact, that Kenya can allow demonstrations in accordance with the constitutions to go on, and that is why we are earning more respect. And it is too early in the year for you to say, why aren't we going to get more visits? It's just the second week of January.
Yes. Yes, I'm alluding this, I'm attributing this to a letter from your own office that came out this week that even suggested that our Gen Z, or the young people in Kenya, had launched a coordinated guerrilla cyber warfare campaign. We have had reports about messages being sent to the King of Netherlands not to visit the country. And that's why I'm asking then, how did this affect does this affect our position in terms of the relations we have with foreign countries?
No, it doesn't.
Just to add another particular position, there are others who are stating that Kenya, and the reason as to why they do not want or are discouraging these other leaders to visit, is that Kenya has had a significant clawback on democracy. You have said that we are a democratic country, protests are allowed, but that is not how it appears that critiques of government are being handled. Alleged abductions by state agencies. We are seeing abductions of foreigners within our country, and this is what Kenyans are saying then, or even communicating to the foreign governments, don't visit our country. We are having a clawback on democracy.
First of all, let me start by just being very blunt on one thing. Kenya does not invite visitors through social media.
But we have from your ministry.
Okay. Do I listen to you or do I respond?
Go ahead, Excellency.
All right. You have to give way to also for me to respond to your questions. Okay. So you want answers? Give me time to respond to you.
Yes, sir.
First of all, a government, and more so I'm talking about the Kenya government, it does not invite visitors or extend invitations to visiting heads of state or government officials through the social media. There are protocols and processes that we use to invite visitors.
Then tell us, Your Excellency, you have answered about social media. Is it to mean that for you it's not a concern about what we are seeing Kenyans writing or alleging to be writing to foreign governments not to involve with Kenya? Does it concern you? I'm forgetting about the letters. Let's speak to you now as the CS Foreign Affairs.
It strikes me as being strange, as Kenyans who have lost their patriotism and venting local issues to people who really may have nothing to do with what they are talking about. That is what shocks me. Tell me, Kenya, for the first time, has the greatest opportunity to chair the African Union Commission.
Yes.
Which we have never, ever chaired. Why would a Kenyan be bitter that a fellow Kenyan is going to have an opportunity of that nature? So that you spend time trying to send social media messages to various governments on the continent, telling them that don't vote for the Kenyan candidate. I mean, is it patriotism? Is it jealousy? Is it somebody being petty? Or is it malice? These are the questions that we ask ourselves. Because who is going to vote at the end of the day in Addis? And who voted for the other people when they were there? All right? So we have an opportunity. For instance, if Raila is at the forefront and is going to be, tomorrow there'll be another Kenyan looking for the job of Secretary General of the United Nations. And my role, if I'll be here, or if it will be you sitting here as a Minister for Foreign Affairs, part of your mandate, your remit, is to also lobby for Kenyans to take up high-level positions in international organizations.
There's a feeling that Kenya is having a clawback on democracy. Thus, it is not right to sit on such positions like the chairperson of the AUC Commission, as well as having a seat at the human rights positions that we are having in the world. That is a feeling by Kenyans.
So first of all, let me just tell you that Kenya is not clawing back on its democratic credentials. And we were elected not too long ago, in October last year, to be on the Human Rights Council for the next 3 years. And we'll do a good job about it, I can assure you.
Excellency, have you seen abductions of dissenting voices? People By whoever, but have you seen abductions or people missing in the streets?
There has been a lot of talk and a lot of media reporting that people have been abducted or people have been arrested in a manner that does not conform with the law. My position and the government position is this: any arrest, any interrogation should be done in accordance with the law.
So far, we have not seen these actions taken. So far, we have not seen the cases that you've said could be happening, blips as you're calling them, or the perpetrators are not being brought to book. Yet there is a government that is supposed to ensure safety and security of its people. So does this not indicate a clawback to democracy, even when these matters have found themselves in court? Individuals within the government, within the police service, you would say it is an independent service, have not been honoring court summons.
So there is a procedure.
Would you agree then that there is a clawback?
There's a procedure. If anybody does not honor a court summons, there's a procedure on how to deal with it. The arms of law should then be followed to their logical conclusion. Plain and simple. That is how it is.
So in the event that we are hosting foreigners who are doing activities that that Kenya will not allow them to do in our spaces, what should be the due process? What should be the right process in getting them to face the law from their country or here in Kenya?
I think what we can tell you is that we will always open our doors for people who are seeking refuge. After all, Kenya has hosted the highest number of refugees in this region for years. Whether you look at Kakuma, whether you look at Dadaab, all right? And we have now even reached a stage where we help the refugees to integrate, to the extent that we have the UN-renowned, world-renowned Shirika plan, which is now beginning to allow refugees to integrate and become part of the economy. And gradually, even some of them become citizens of this country. So we have been host and will continue to be host in accordance with the UN laws. But what is important at the end of the day, and this is what I'm trying to speak to, is that we want everybody to also respect the laws. We want them to come and respect the laws. Okay? There may be some unfortunate incidents, okay? But those have been the exception rather than the norm.
I mean, Excellency, assuming Maria Sarungi is watching, assuming Kiza Besije is watching this particular interview, what would you tell them about the ordeal that they went through within the Republic of Kenya?
Well, what I told you, and I've said here, that it is unfortunate where people may have been mishandled. But you must also agree that as much as the incident of, say, the lady from Tanzania has been handled, she's back. But she also stated what she thought, didn't she?
She said that she believes those were not Kenyan police officers.
Right. So that is why we also have to undertake some thorough investigations as Kenyans.
There have been calls by Kenyans again, and this again touches on your docket and the perception that Kenya will have globally. There have been calls by Kenyans to involve the ICC in what is happening here. We have seen political players calling on the ICC to look at abductions, to look at alleged police killings. And Kenyans are also writing, aside from politicians, Kenyans are also writing to the ICC, and we've seen in the recent past, even Fufua ICC as a hashtag trending on socials. Where does this place our country globally?
You know, sometimes some issues are emotional. People may react emotionally. Okay? I cannot, and we cannot take away their right to write to the ICC or to send messages to the ICC. It is their right. We cannot stop them. What is important is for the government of Kenya to be focused and to manage the affairs and guarantee security for all Kenyans. And that we shall do without blinking. And if there are people who feel that they will be better served by sending messages out there, I cannot stop them.
There is even a call to incoming US President Donald Trump to pressure President Ruto to form an IEBC.
It's not true. The law is very clear. Have you checked the case in court?
Mm-hmm.
What does it say?
There is an appeal so far.
Okay, but who has appealed?
The parties in that wanted to sit in the selection panel.
All right. The parties that wanted to sit in the selection panel. Okay. Has the government of Kenya gone to court to stop the formation or constitution of IEBC? No. So why are you blaming the government? Who has gone to court? Dorcas Oduor is there. She's the legal person. Has she gone to court to stop the constitution of IEBC?
Isn't this such a time that political leadership is needed to even see these cases in court sorted or withdrawn? We have seen the government previously come to agreements with other parties in different quarters.
Are you looking for leadership or dictatorship? What are you looking for? No,
leadership.
What are you looking for?
I would call it political leadership. Because
no. When a matter is in court, what do you want Musalia Mudavadi to do? Or what do you want President Ruto to do?
Isn't this the same?
No.
Excellency, isn't this the same government that has negotiated with parties in different other matters, including labor matters, and had matters withdrawn from court? Why is it so difficult to this?
What makes you think that maybe conversations are not taking place? The government of Kenya has extended an opportunity that let these matters be settled. Pull out of court, let us proceed. We are willing to move ahead. But if people don't want to withdraw the matter, then it has to run the full course.
Assuming this court case is not concluded in the right time to have to handle the 2027 election, which is almost cast on stones in the constitution, then where does it place us as a country? Where does it leave us?
I think what is important is that we must also know that we need to develop faith in our institutions. Okay? Kenya's judiciary has handled, for the first time in the whole of Africa, election petitions which involve a president and nullified the results. And Kenya has emerged strong, even under such circumstances.
Let's now speak about our bid for the Africa Union Commission. You alluded to it some moments ago, but let's go deeper into it. What is the status of Raila Odinga's bid so far? The elections are in the next few weeks.
Yes, about 3 weeks or so. By mid-February, we should have concluded this process. And I can tell you that we stand very well. Very well.
What is our path to victory?
Our what?
Path to victory. How do we want to achieve this?
Through the vote. Through the AU conventions and articles of rules of procedure, we shall vote. That is why we have had an extensive lobbying engagement.
There is the right to information that Kenyans have. They feel that the government has not been very open to them about this particular bid. For instance, a very critical question. How much are we spending on Raila Odinga's AUC bid?
All I can tell you is this. As we put in effort, as the president makes his trips, okay, the president is allowed to travel. It's my duty to travel. Okay. So in my assignments and in my travels, I will help him. Raila himself is also using some of his own resources. As we campaign for him where we do, where he may not go, he also is putting in his effort.
Is the government of Kenya putting in incentives, public money into his?
I think all I can tell you is this. We as a government, and this is usually the case, when there are any critical positions of that nature that would be of significance, we will be able to justify
So how much
any resources that we use.
So how much have we used so far? How much have we done? Of 10 billion shillings.
No. All I can tell you is that even if we were to put some budget outlay, okay, as a government, take it from me, it can never be 10 billion.
Yeah, some bit of local politics. We saw the merger, UDA ANC, and in the streets saying that ANC has been swallowed. What will you tell your supporters now when you're not the minister, as a politician?
I'm very, very calculative, because you asked me, this is politics, it's not. Very, very calculative. And I give a lot of thought to the decisions that I make, because I always have a long-term perspective in terms of the decisions that I'm making. And from where I sit, the decisions that we talked about earlier, the tough decisions, not the populist decisions, the tough decisions on health, on education, on reform of the savings sector and so forth. All these difficult reforms, which are still in their nascent stage, require stability and cohesion so that they can take proper route for Kenyans to move to the next level. And when you have, as a country, extremely complex decisions like those, the unity of purpose becomes essential. And it is on that basis that we had our internal discussions in ANC and had conversations with UDA and agreed to the merger, which has happened. So for now, my party leader is William Ruto.
In a country replete with so many cases of political betrayal, why would you take such a gamble to merge your party with another in terms of political negotiations going into the future?
No, I don't think it does. You see, let's break away from the notion that it has to be a party for you to be able to negotiate better. You can negotiate very effectively if you persuade people with your logic and your plan. I mean, there have been parties in this country. You can have CC for CC, you can have what? That does not mean that it enhances the negotiating capabilities. I think it is what is the plan, what is the agenda that we want to seek and push forward. And I'm a very strong believer in a reformed country, a country with a stable economy, a country that can have a proper growth trajectory. And that cannot come with political sideshows.
The politics of the mountain. The former Deputy President Gachagua threatens to lead the mountain away from Kenya Kwanza as a revenge for his impeachment. So that there is a whole debate on whether this is going to be a one-term presidency. But I would be more interested in how do you intend to compensate for the numbers? Because the truth is, Gashagua's constituency did contribute a great deal to the formation of this government. How do you intend to fill this void?
Politics is dynamic. We have 3 years to an election. So I think let us wait and see, because the voters will judge us on the basis of what we do in terms of performance and what are tangible deliverables. I think that is going to be the basis. That is why we are spending more time in looking at those issues, rather than, even if we are criticized and vilified at this stage, our focus must be on the deliverables that have significant impact on the lives of an individual Kenyan. That is what will matter. But I think it's also important that we educate Kenyans on the provisions of the law. What does the law say about somebody who has been impeached? Can you please help me? Can you please help me? I'm ignorant. I don't know. What does the law say about somebody who has been impeached?
They may not hold office.
Pardon?
That they cannot hold office, public office.
Yeah, so
They may not vie themselves, but fund someone.
So in this circumstance, I don't know. I don't know what you people think.
Maybe by the time we get the elections, they may not stand impeached. So legal process
on what?
legally.
There's a process ongoing in court.
Then why don't we count our chicks when the eggs have hatched?
But nonetheless, even without him on the ballot, he can phone someone. And just like the region was mobilized to support President William Ruto, it can as well be demobilized by the same individuals. Don't you think?
Now, let me ask you, what about the people who voted for Raila? And it was a very close race. Where were they mobilized from?
Is that you trying to say that you'll compensate for that vote from Raila's constituency?
No, the point I'm trying to say is this. Let us unshackle Kenyans from some mind frame that it's only a region that will anchor you and make you a leader in this country. We are looking at a new demographic. We are looking at a more educated electorate. The issues that they will vote for are not necessarily what we have been used to all along. I think they are going to look at politicians and the leaders they vote in from a completely different prism or angle or perspective. So, as far as I'm concerned, we should also open our eyes as political commentators. We are falling again and again into the trap of trying to create a larger-than-life image out of our politicians. They are Kenyans, they are human beings. And Kenyans will decide.
My last question would be, their calls, and these calls came in recent days from what they call themselves as the Loyal People's Opposition, that is Kalonzo Musyoka's team, for President William Ruto to resign.
Mm-hmm.
How do you respond to these calls for abuse of human rights from what Kalonzo is saying, abductions and all this, calls for the head of state to resign? In fact, Jeremiah Kioni said, we may as well march into State House and arrest the president, as we've seen happen in other countries.
In your view, do you think that is really credible?
I want your view as the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I've responded. Is that really credible? Or is it just political rhetoric to kind of excite a political base? But in reality, let's face it, do you think they would march to State House to evict the president? Let us be realistic and honest here. There are some things that, there used to be some column in the newspaper sometimes. They used to call it stranger than fiction. many years ago. So some of these comments are exactly that. They are stranger than fiction.
Sure. Prime Cabinet Secretary, you are known to be very measured. When leaders in your stable speak about the 2027 election and how they will manipulate the numbers, kura zisipoja tutajaza, and others speak about, but we've never seen a president who does one term, and the last one another speaks about, we know how to produce a president for 24 years against constitutional provisions, terms of 5 years each. Which is
first of all,
how do you react to this?
First of all, let me tell you that we are not going to amend the constitution to alter the term of the presidency. Please debunk that completely. It's not on. All right. Secondly, I told you about sometimes what you call stranger than fiction statements. Both sides of the aisle have people who have stranger than fiction statements. And some can be reckless, it becomes unfortunate. And my advice to them is that we must treat Kenyans with respect from whichever corner you are. All right? And we should not speak to issues that can inflame temperatures in the country.
All right.
All right. We must. Humility is important. It's a virtue, and a nation must also exercise and show humility. And any leader, whether you are an MCA to the highest office, humility is important.
Thank you very much.
Sound Candid Talk Live News.
Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
Are you looking for video live streaming services? You want your church services to be on air? You do not know where to market your goods and services? At Sound Candid Talk, we deliver the best live stream services for your events, product and service launches, conferences, weddings, and marriages. Reach on us today. Mimi ni Bernard Ngozi na kutakia Happy New Year. Sound Kadi Talk Live wishes you a happy new year and prosperous 2025. Kutoka vijijini, mijini hadi jijini. Hii ni Sound Kadi Talk Live.